Class, this is Mrs. Robertson and this is Math 6, and we're going to go over our Bellwork, and it's located on page 632. And then we're going to do lesson 7, chapter 8, lesson 7, solving one-step inequalities. A quiz will happen tomorrow, just FYI. Number 21. The table shows the number of different kinds of sports equipment sold at a sporting goods store. The number of basketballs sold in is greater than the number of softballs sold. So they sold more basketballs than softballs. It's probably in the wintertime. Determine if each statement is true or false. So here we have the inequality n is greater than 21. Well, they sold 21 softballs, so yes, that is true. B, the store sold more footballs than basketballs. No, that is false, because we know they sold more than 21 basketballs. They only sold 8 footballs. The store could have sold 22 basketballs. Is that greater than 21? Why, yes, it is. Any questions on how to answer those questions? Is it pretty easy? Thumbs up. Good. Number 22. Jason has less than 65 pages of his book left to read. Let P represent the number of pages left to read. Write an inequality. Well, P is going to be less than 65. Is that, everyone see how to write that? Now, if you're going to graph it, you put a 65, 64, 65, 66. Is it going to be an open or a closed circle on 65? Open circle. Which way will the arrow go? Left. Any questions? Did you use a closed dot or an open dot? We all used an open dot, right? Why? Because we don't include the 65. It's smaller than 65. Okay, now we're going to review how to do some computation skills. 8 times 2 is 16 minus 11 gives you the answer what? 5. In number 24, 2 times 2 is 4. 7 plus 4 equals 11. 3 times 5 is 15, and 15 minus 7 equals 8. Now remember, in PEMDAS you do your parentheses, then you do multiplication and division. So that's why I'm doing these multiplication problems first, and then we go back and do the rest. 2 times 3 is 6. 19 minus 6 is 13. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 7, 5. 4 times 4 is 16. 28 minus 16 is 12. Graph the numbers on the number line below. This is so easy, but kids, you'd be surprised sometimes your classmates don't pay attention and they get these wrong. A 32, a 30, a 29, and a 34. That should be easy. A 13, a 15, a 9, and an 11. Any questions on our review, our power up and spiral review? Okay, now we're going to go to our one-step inequalities. We did part of this yesterday. So on this lesson, it starts on page 635. We did the inquiry lab. We're going to look at problem number 1, page 635. One-step inequalities. This is chapter 8, lesson 7. Okay. The graph shows the number of home runs that the top hitters on the baseball team hit last season. Well, look at that picture graph. They used little bats, didn't they, for their graph to show how many each person got as far as their hits. Write an inequality that compares the number of runs Nate has, which is 15, to the number of runs Josh has. Okay, so Nate, it looks like it's 15, and Josh, is it 12? 15 is greater than 12. Well, that was pretty easy, wasn't it? Write an inequality that compares the number of home runs James hit to the home runs that Mark hit. Is that 19? So 19. Mark hit the most. Is that 23? 19 is less than 23. Now, in number 3, suppose James and Mark each hit 3 more home runs. Write an inequality that compares the number of home runs James and Mark hit. Well, if we just add 3 to each one of these, James will have what? 22. And Mark will have 26. Any questions on that? Okay, that was pretty easy. Let's turn the page. Oh, this looks just like when we were doing our one-step equations. Use addition and subtraction properties to solve inequalities. All right, so let's just go on to example number 1. X plus 7 is greater than or equal to 10. How do you get rid of a plus 7? Minus 7, minus 7. Draw your line and cancel. Bring down your variable. X, bring down your inequality sign, is greater than or equal to 3. Then, now they're going to make you graph it. Close circle on the 3 going to the right. Any questions on how to do that? Let's go to number 2. The opposite of subtracting 3 is add 3, draw your line and cancel. Bring down your X, bring down your inequality sign. X is less than 12, and graph it. Open circle on the 12 going to the left. Any questions? All right, then do A and B. All right, so for letter A, what's the opposite of adding 2, class? Minus 2, minus 2. Draw your line and cancel. Bring down your inequality sign. Bring down your variable. 5 minus 2 is 3. Now, n is less than or equal to 3. Open or close dot on the 3, kids? Closed. Is it going to go left or right? Left. It's got the little point. Little numbers live left. Any questions on that? Are you good at that? Okay, letter B. The opposite of subtracting 3, add 3, draw your line and cancel. Bring down your inequality sign. Y is greater than 12. Open or close circle on the 12. Open circle. Y has the big N. Big numbers live right. Any questions? Okay, turn the page. Now we're going to solve problems by undoing multiplication and division. All right, so on number 3, let's just rewrite it over here. 5 times x is less than or equal to 45. That's what that means. When 5 is next to a variable, it means we're multiplying. Now what will undo multiplying? And in algebra, we show it with the bar. Divide. Divide. Did everyone use that for the division? Don't use this. Don't use that. We use this for algebra. And what are we dividing by? 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. And that cancels. Bring down your x is less than or equal to 45 divided by 5 is 9. Does everyone see how to do that? Now we graph it. Closed circle going to the left. Any questions? Let's rewrite number 4. And this says x divided by 8 is greater than 3. What's the opposite of dividing by 8? And we show multiplication with parentheses, okay? Everyone do that? We're going to multiply both sides by 8. Why 8? Because you want to get x all by itself. And to undo dividing by 8, we multiply by 8. And we have what we want. X is all by itself. X is greater than 24. Everyone good at doing these problems? Now, open circle on the 24 going to the right. I want you to do C and D. So, for letter C, to undo multiplying by 10, we're going to divide. We show division like this. Divide by 10, divide by 10. X is less than 8. So we're going to graph our inequality, open circle, going to the left. Any questions on this, kids? Now, to undo dividing by 6, what are we going to do? Okay, and Mrs. Robertson just does it like this, and I'll make that D turn into a 6. X is greater than or equal to 42. Close circle, going to the right. Any questions on that? You're all pretty good? Okay, now we're going to do, I bet it's a word problem on the next page. It is. How would I have guessed that? Laverne is making bags of party favors for each of the 7 friends attending her birthday party. She does not want to spend more than $42 on the party favors. Write and solve an inequality to find the maximum cost for each party favor bag. Let C represent the cost of each bag of party favors. So she's making 7 bags. She's not making one for herself, okay? So we have 7 times the cost has to be less than or equal to 42, okay? Divide by 7, and the cost is $6 or less per bag. If she only has $42, if she spends all $42, it'll be 6. If it's, but it could be less than 6 for each bag. Okay, now let's go to the problems below in the guided practice. Now what I do, kids, I just make my graph a little bit smaller on these problems so there's room to show work below it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And then I always just make you put in 3 numbers. All right, so now we can show our work below the problem. What will undo subtracting 6? Add 6, add 6, draw your line and cancel. H is greater than or equal to 19. Okay, now we are going to put 19 in the middle here, a closed circle. Let's see, 18, 19, 20. Big numbers live to the right. Any questions on how I did that? In number 2, what's the opposite of multiplying by 5? And we show division with the bar, don't we? Divide, divide, divide by 5, divide by 5. Y is greater than 6. 6 goes there. 5, 6, 7. Open circle on the 6 going to the right. Any questions? Now let's do the word problems. They're not that hard, but I know some of you don't always like the word problems. Joanna's parents give her $10 per week for lunch money. She cannot decide whether she wants to buy or pack her lunch. If a hot lunch at school costs $2, write and solve an inequality to find the maximum number of times per week she can buy her lunch. Okay, so let's say I'm going to use x equals lunch, okay? I'm going to define my variable. X equals lunch, school lunch, all right? Cost school lunches. So they cost $2. So 2 times x has to be less than or equal to $10. She can't spend more than $10, right? and each school lunch is $2. So how many school lunches can she buy for $10, or how many can she buy that week? Well, now divide by 2, and she can buy 5 or less lunches for the week at $2. Okay? Write and solve and find. Okay, so we have, she can buy 5 or less lunches. All right. Any questions on that? Number 4. Tino's Pizza charges $9 for a cheese pizza. Elaine has $45 to buy pizza for the Spanish Club. Write and solve an inequality to find the maximum number of pizzas that Elaine can buy. Well, in this one, I'm going to say P equals pizzas. All right, and how much are they? So 9 times P has to be equal or less than $45, right? Does that make sense? Now we divide both sides by 9, and they can get 5 or less pizzas. P is less than or equal to 5. Any questions on that? Okay, now I would like for you to do page 639, okay? So our homework tonight is page 639. Are there any problems on the next page? Oh, and let's go all the way to number 8. 639 and 640 do 7 and 8. And then I have a worksheet that we're going to work on together, okay? Any questions? So work on that, and while you're working on that, I'll start passing out the worksheet and things. We'll go over these in just a little bit.